Could you please give me your name and title?
Yes, I'm Richard Moon. I'm a Fire Investigation Officer with East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service.
Tell me, Richard, how common are electrical fires in the home?
Well, nationally, we get about, or in excess of 20,000 fires in people's homes. So that's obviously across the country. In East Sussex, that will be a weekly occurrence for us, a fire in the home of an electrical origin.
What type of incidents have you gone to?
A whole range of incidents. So we go to incidents that involve people's electrical intake, where the electricity first comes into the home, and maybe their consumer unit. But then also we'll attend fires involving individual appliances like tumble dryers, washing machines, cookers, fridges, that sort of thing.
What action can people take in the home to avoid these type of fires?
So let's start with the electrical intake area. It's a good idea to get an electrician to come and actually check your electrics in the home on a regular basis. And by regular I mean once every 10 years or so. And that's particularly useful if you've just moved into a new home. Perhaps useful to get that done for your own peace of mind. Also in that particular area it's important to keep it clear of other stored items and particularly combustible items, especially if it happens to be under the stairs, because that's a main escape route for people in the home. And if a fire were to start there, that could have significant consequences. So keeping those areas clear so that the electrics don't get damaged, and equally if a fire does start it can't spread to other items. So that's probably the first couple of things you can do. If you start looking at the individual appliances, inspecting them every so often, making sure the leads aren't damaged or there's no other damage to the appliance itself, then obviously that indicates that it's safe to use. If there is any damage to an appliance or the lead, then clearly that should either be repaired or the appliance should be disposed of. I would say always follow the manufacturer's instructions. So in any appliance instruction manual, the first page usually covers the safety aspects for that appliance. I'd always advise people to follow that.
Could you give me a couple of examples of the type of thing that's happened regarding, say, a dishwasher or a washing machine? What can go wrong, say, if you do leave the house?
So obviously if you want to use appliances such as dishwashers and washing machines, it's best to use them whilst you're in the property and obviously while you're awake. So don't use them at night time when you're asleep and don't use them when you go out. The consequence of that could be, obviously, if a fire does start, if you're asleep, you might not wake up and realise there's a fire, and that could have serious consequences. And if you're out, there's no one to alert the fire service that there's a fire, and you'll have significantly more damage to your property should that occur.
I believe we've attended quite a few tumble dry fires. Why do these occur?
So a common issue that occurs with tumble dryers is the fluff or the lint that comes out of the clothing. If it builds up, it can get drawn into the heating element sometimes with a tumble dryer, and of course that then ignites the lint material, which ultimately can ignite the clothing, which then spreads and obviously involves the whole machine and ultimately the property that it's in. So one of the safety measures against that is to make sure that your filter in your tumble dryer is regularly cleaned out, and actually there'll be some other elements within the tumble dryer that should be inspected on a regular basis to make sure they're kept clear of any lint material.
Could you give me any examples with regards to washing machines or dishwashers?
So washing machines and dishwashers will have motors in them that drive the drums and the moving parts. They'll have heating elements that heat the water to the correct temperatures. And faults within those items can cause maybe the motors to jam and overheat, or the heating elements to heat when it shouldn't be, if a safety device within the machine has faltered. So those kinds of things can cause the appliances to overheat and start fires.
Why is it important for people to register their appliance?
Well, this is really important. When a manufacturer becomes aware that one of their appliances might have a manufacturing defect in it, they will potentially try and recall those appliances so that they can either rectify the problem or advise people to get a different appliance. So the idea of people registering their appliance means that the manufacturer knows where they are and they know where their appliances are. So if they do need to recall an appliance and have it repaired, they know which households to contact and they can make those necessary arrangements.
So what should people do if they have an electrical fire in the home?
Well, as with any fire, we would always advise people to get out, stay out and call out the fire brigade. If, however, it is small enough and they feel they can tackle it, then the first thing you mustn't do is put water on a live electrical fire. So ideally, isolate the electrics to that appliance before you tackle it. If you happen to have carbon dioxide extinguishers in your home, then carbon dioxide can be used to extinguish an electrical fire. But the important thing is ideally to isolate the electrics, at which point you could then use water if necessary. But as I said, only tackle that if it's a very, very small fire, and the important thing is to make sure that everybody gets out and there are no injuries.
Are there any other indications that there could be problems with the electrics around the home, or any other warning signs people should look out for?
Yeah, so often when we've been to fires involving electrics, people will tell us that they had smelt funny smells for maybe a few hours or even a few days sometimes. So if you're aware of a strange, slight burning smell within your home, then you should consider that it might be an electrical fire that's developing, or an electrical problem that is developing and might become a fire. So that's certainly an indication. Other things might be that the lights maybe are starting to flicker when they never used to. That might indicate an electrical fault that you would need to get checked out. Scorches to sockets and plugs. Occasionally you might just see a slight discoloration, if you like, around a socket. And again, that's an indication that maybe that socket is overheating, and an electrician should be contacted to check that out.
There seems to be some confusion around plug sockets and how to use them and not to overload them. What recommendation would you give?
Yeah, so it's really important not to overload a socket and start drawing more electricity than that socket is capable of delivering. And when people do that, that's when problems occur. So each socket is capable of providing 13 amps to your electrical appliances. And the way that people sometimes overload these sockets is by putting multi-adapters into the sockets and plugging more than one appliance into that multi-adapter, or using one of these extension leads that has about 4 sockets on the end of it. Now, they can be okay to use, but you just need to be careful that the appliances you're plugging into them don't add up to more than 13 amps.
Do you have any other recommendations to protect people in their home?
Absolutely. We would strongly advise people to fit smoke alarms in their homes. So if they haven't already got smoke alarms, then they should be fitted. And they should be fitted on every level of the home, ideally, and they are proven to be lifesavers. In addition to fitting smoke alarms, we would always advise people to plan their escape. So have a think about what they might do if they were to have a fire in their home, and come up with a plan as to how they would escape in those circumstances. Other things people can do is they can have a look at their consumer units and see if they've got RCDs fitted. Now, they are a safety device that can be fitted into the consumer unit that just gives that added protection against electric shock, but also other electrical faults, which ultimately could lead to a fire. So we'd strongly advise to get those fitted as well.